Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey everybody, Jersey Ed, Friends in Recovery Podcast. Just have a great show today. John Mabry is our guest. Before I get to him in a minute, this guy has led a charmed life, all kinds of good stuff going on, and addiction hit and blah, blah, blah. And I don't mean blah, 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 John, but so on and so forth. But we'll get into that in a minute. I just want to remind everybody, get out your sober shout outs, guys. We're giving away a $50 Amazon card this month. Last month was a couple of mugs, Friends in Recovery mugs, and this month it's a Amazon card. Only one this month, guys. Only one winner. So make sure you get your sober shout out to us. We're going to read them on the air at the end of the month, and somebody's going to be the lucky winner of a $50 gift card. I can use a $50 gift card. How about you, John?
Heck yeah, man.
All right.
I'll be doing a shout out.
Exactly. Yeah. Send your shout out. So you want to send your shout out to help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. That's help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And just like the man says at the beginning of the show, make sure you like us, subscribe to us, get us on Instagram, get us on Facebook. And don't forget, we do have a Friends in Recovery community. So if you check out genesishouse.net, go under connections, all the community AANA meetings will be there. We have 2 meetings a day, 7 days a week. Really get connected in that organization if you guys can. And we also have an adventures Friends in Recovery that we do too. So look on Facebook, get a hold of Facebook, Instagram. I don't know much about that, but you guys do, and go from there. So on that, a lot to be said in a short amount of time. And John Mabry, he from what I read, he's led a charmed life, Christian education in Texas, on TV shows, ER, Superbad, NCIS, all kinds of stuff. And then I guess addiction took hold and kind of sent you down the road, and then got back up again, and addiction took hold and sent you down a road again. And now you're back and you're doing your thing, and you wanted to come on our podcast. So here you go. Here it is, John.
Thanks so much, Jersey Ed.
So
hey, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be able to be of service to the community, recovery community, and that has helped me out so much. And yeah, if you're like anybody out there that's listening that's like me, who's gone up and down and up and down and up and down, I'm one of those, and I'm here to tell you that it's okay. The worst thing you do is just give up and not keep going, even after setbacks. So I'll go into a little bit about my past, and really what I would like to focus on more is solutions and things that I've done to things I've learned along the way that have helped me continue to get back up and not give up. So I'll try to make this as brief as possible. So yeah, had a great childhood, great life, great family. Grew up in Texas, and had a private college education provided for me by my parents. At Baylor University, was a communications major. My senior year was involved in a fatal car accident. So we were driving back from a cruise I had set up in New Orleans, this booze cruise, 2000. We had about 30, 40 friends, fraternity brothers, girlfriends, and whatnot. And we're coming back from this cruise that I had assembled for all of us, and I got to go for free since I set it all up. And I was dating one of the cheerleaders. I was social chair of our fraternity. I was on a full ride scholarship my senior year. I'd earned doing video work for the athletic video staff. And so I was filming football games and practices and basketball games, baseball games, traveling with the team, and had the same scholarship that football players got. So senior year, man, I was doing great. Couldn't have asked for anything more. And we're coming back from out of New Orleans back to Waco, Texas, and a tire blew out in a friend's car. We're just had the cruise set on 70, beautiful day outside, nobody drinking or driving, not doing anything wrong. Tire blows out. in her SUV, and I'm backseat passenger side. The car just starts shaking violently, and as soon as it hit the median, we did a 180 and just started rolling across the median, across the other side of the interstate into a field. Witness reports say we rolled between 6 and 12 times. I saw my leg. Somehow my legs got out the window, and I saw it all happening. It was like, and I was trying to pull my legs in. I'm trying all my might to pull my legs in, but the force was just too great. So the car stops, and what happens in the movies when a car rolls a bunch of times? It blows up, right? So I'm thinking it's going to blow up, and I tried to. The car's upside down. I tried to stand up, and my ankle was split in half. It was just severed in half, and so I was basically standing on my shin, and my foot was wrapped around. I could see the bottom of my foot.
Oh,
and so I just threw myself out of the car and I crawled out, and we ended up, the driver, they had to cut her out of the car and put her in a helicopter. They landed a helicopter on the side of the interstate, shut down I-10. This is outside of Houston. She passed away in the helicopter, unfortunately, from head trauma. Her name was Ashley Furman, and I always like to give a shout out to her and her family. So I ended up going through 14 operations under anesthetic 14 times that year. Had to move home from school. I lost my scholarship. I lost my social life in the fraternity and being on campus and being in school. I had to move back home to San Antonio with my parents. I'm living in a hospital bed in my dad's home office, and can't even go to the bathroom by myself hardly. So I would have surgery, start doing physical therapy, get better. Infection would set in, go back in, surgery. It just kept the cycle. It just went on and on. So a year into the surgeries, ended up just deciding to amputate my leg. And so I had my leg amputated below the knee. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but what I always did my entire life was put a face on and act like I'm fine. And it goes back to, I love talking about childhood trauma, because I didn't think that this existed. I thought if something happened in your childhood, it's a long time ago, it doesn't make that big a deal. But through trauma work later on, I found out that I had some childhood issues due to ear surgeries. And that set the tone for how I reacted to this trauma and another one I had later on that we'll talk about. But I'll circle back to the childhood trauma in just a sec. So car accident, legs amputated. I graduate 6 weeks later and get my degree, undergraduate degree. I walk the stage on a temporary prosthetic, and I'm going to go show the world that I'm fine. So I had this bucket list of things that I always wanted to do that skydiving. I went skydiving.
Wow.
I wanted to go to Venice. So I went to Venice. And so I did a bunch of these things that summer after my amputation, checked a bunch of my bucket list things off. Ended up enrolling in graduate school in San Diego, at San Diego State, for getting a master's in counseling. I thought, there was a lot of people there to help me along my physical and journey through my accident. I want to go help other people.
Yeah.
Problem is, I took that energy and I put it on other people. And let me help you, but I wasn't helping myself. And so I got into a number of prescription medications that I was abusing, pain pills, of course, alcohol, Adderall, marijuana was in the mix as well. So I would just bounce from one substance to the other. And subconsciously, consciously, I didn't know that I was running from my issues, but I was. I got married to a girl that I knew at Baylor. She moved out to San Diego, and within 6 months, flew home to her parents in Chicago and said, something's not right. Because we were dating and engaged in separate states for 2 years. And so now all of a sudden somebody moves in with me and she's like, something's not right. But addiction was not a thing in either of our families. We didn't know. She didn't know. Her parents didn't know. My parents didn't know signs. So we just kind of went along our merry way. I ended up getting my graduate degree in counseling. And right as I finished that, I fell into some acting and stunt work using my leg. It's a good way to get your foot in the door in the industry is cut a limb off. And there's a market, there's a niche in Hollywood for it, apparently.
I guess so.
So I fell into it. I was a body double for my cousin, who's an actor. And he was on a show on FX back in 2005. It was called Over There. And it only lasted one season, but I got hired on as his body double, or what they call a technical consultant. And so I was getting paid to make sure everything looked accurate on set. And we would do camera tricks, slide my leg into a shot. We'd have his face and body. We'd slide my prosthetic foot in and pull it out. Or have me running on the track. He's trying to get back. He wants to get back over and fight with his buddies. And so he's trying to rehab and everything. And so I had to do some stunt work. And so it was a pretty cool deal. People magazine came out, and Access Hollywood, these national, press came out and did stories on us. And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. So drugged my now ex-wife, kicking and screaming to LA, and said, well, I'm going to let's see what we can do with this. And ended up
Now,
making it on.
real quick, how old were you when from the accident on to this? How old were you? I'm guessing what college, 20, 19, 20, 21?
So now I was in like 22, 23
Okay.
when I graduated college. So now we're talking, it was 3-year grad school program. So about 26.
Okay.
And I found myself working on the movie Superbad. I've got one scene in that with Jonah Hill. I jog past him on a track, and he's huffing and puffing because he's heavy and out of shape, and I just jog past him and curse at him as I run by. So worked on NCIS and ER, Cold Case, Jag, a couple of movies that went straight to DVD you probably didn't see. But all along was feeding my addiction, again, bouncing around from prescription meds, alcohol, marijuana, just trying not to get caught, really. And Playboy Mansion with Adam Sandler was on the bucket list. I did that.
Wow.
Yeah. Emma Stone and Bruce Willis, bunch of folks who were hanging out there. So that was interesting. And about a month later, man, it all came crashing down, dude. My brother, who struggled with addiction, we didn't talk about it because it happens to other families. It doesn't happen to us.
Yeah.
And he was struggling, and we didn't get him help. And I got a call that he didn't show up for work on a particular Monday. Drive over 8 miles over the hills into Beverly Hills to the house he was living in. Go to his bedroom door. It was locked. I called his cell phone, and I heard it ringing on the other side, and there was no answer. So the only thing I knew to do was kick in the door and see what happens. And I found my brother dead, lying face down from a cocaine overdose.
God.
He's been there for 3 days. And before I walked out of his house, I'm chugging vodka as I'm walking out the house, having to call my parents. And so long story short, I ended up getting out of LA, moving here to Nashville, where I've been the last 11 years. But just geographical change brought me with me. And so I came here and struggled with jobs, got fired from a couple of jobs. And finally, one of the firings was by a high profile individual here in town, his business. And it was my first kind of chance to raise my hand and say, I can't do this on my own. I need help.
Wow. Okay.
So I've been through treatment 5 times in the last 11 years. Have had some bad times in sobriety where I was covering it up and not talking about it and hiding it and telling people I was fine. And I've had some good times in sobriety. Had, working for an addiction treatment center a few years ago, was hosting their podcast. I was doing public speaking, sharing my story around the country and various media outlets around the country, and serving as a guest on panels of addiction, and was doing some great work. And unfortunately, they sold out to another company, a new investor, and they wiped a bunch of us out. They just took a bunch of our jobs and said, we don't need you.
Yeah.
So I got laid off. I relapsed, and my ex-wife filed for divorce. Went to treatment again, and living in a halfway house. It's my third time living in a sober living house. And one of them was a trailer on the side of the Cumberland River here in the Nashville area. Had a roommate named Beaver. So to go from the Playboy Mansion, to go from a Playboy Mansion and partying in Beverly Hills to living in a dilapidated, mold infested trailer with Beaver was interesting, to say the least.
Was humbling.
Yes, it was.
John, real quick, what how long did you have from when you got sober to when you relapsed again and you worked for the treatment center and you did all that stuff in between? How many years or how many?
2 years. 2 years. That was my longest. Yeah. I've had it like a year. I'd had a year and a half, and then got up to 2 years and, fell backwards again.
Okay. And what was that? Was that due from not going to meetings? Was it, just, kind of, yeah. Okay. That's the key. Yeah. That's
not being rigorously honest.
Not working
rigorously honest with myself. Not being rigorously honest with my sponsor. I didn't have a support system. I didn't have a good support system, even though I knew a lot of people.
Yeah.
I knew people all across the country in treatment, working for treatment centers, these reps that are out in the field, and other podcast hosts like yourself. I knew all these people, but I wasn't working on me. I was using that work as my recovery.
Yes.
I wasn't doing my own recovery work.
Yeah.
So that's really what set me up for failure of that go round.
Yeah.
So here I am, COVID. I'm living by myself for the first time in my life. I've done stuff in Hollywood. I've done stuff for a treatment center where I'm out and about and doing good work. But this last year has just been brutal, man. Just isolation. Things I close the blinds. I don't want anybody to talk to me. I don't want to see anybody. I'm going grocery shopping at night. I don't want to run into anybody in the community. I want a hat, or a hoodie. I just don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
More depressed I'd ever been in my life. And I relapsed last fall. And I'm sitting there, I look at myself going, what's not working? And what wasn't working for me, I tried so hard to make AA work for me. Because in treatment, that's everybody promotes AA,
Mm-hmm.
and it has its benefits for me, but also has some drawbacks. And I could not get. Maybe it was me. I just wasn't allowing myself to. Whatever it was, I was not connected in the group like I feel like I should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a sister group, Celebrate Recovery, and it's a 12-step group, using the same 12 steps, but with a Christian twist. I grew up in the church, went to private Baptist college, so since going there, the lights came on, and I'm woke. I'm woke AF. But it really has helped me define. I have accountability partners in that group. I got a sponsor that's one of the co-leaders of Celebrate Recovery Group. He's also in AA.
Yeah.
So I listen to AA meetings every single day. One resource I love, I want to promote. It's aahomegroup.org.
Okay.
aahomegroup.org. They have meetings 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online. So if you're awake at 3 a.m, you can log on and there's a meeting with people all over the world. I've never seen less than 100 people ever.
Oh my God.
Even in the middle of the night, you got people from Tel Aviv to Denmark to Australia, London, and then all over the U.S. of course.
That's
US
pretty cool.
based group. So aahomegroup.org. I listen to that every single morning. I turn that on when my alarm goes off. It's on my browser. Click on one button and I'm connected to a meeting immediately. So that's been helpful. So over the last 6 months or so, the Celebrate Recovery has the 12 steps, but you do it in a men's group. So they do it in a step study group. And so every Monday for 2 hours, we meet as a group. There's about 10 of us. And we go around and we share our answers. And it's really cool to know, okay, I'm not alone in this. You just get that reinforcement that other people are dealing with their stuff. Theirs may be worse or not as bad as mine, but we all help each other out. So we're 12 steps with AA for me was just working that one-on-one with my sponsor. But I found that this way it's more inclusive in a group, and we're in the battlefield together. And so I've gotten closer with those guys than I did in folks with AA, and it's working for me. So I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how we and especially now because when COVID came in, things changed. I mean, AA is Zoom now. I mean, I'm assuming every time, aahomegroup.org, you're talking about Zoom. You're not going to Tel Aviv at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're talking about Zoom. I mean, I had a comment. We do those 12-step meetings 7 days a week, 2 times a day, noon and 7 p.m. Eastern time. Feel free to join us. I'll send you the schedule or look up the schedule at genesishouse.net. But we'd love to have you on. But, I made a comment on there one day. I said, I bet you Bill and Bob are rolling over in their grave about all this. And one guy goes, no, Ed, think what they did when they introduced AA. I mean, there was, the Oxford group and all that, but they introduced AA and it was completely different than what anybody have ever seen before, and now Celebrate Recovery, Zoom meetings, there's, one size doesn't fit all. And I love it because that's what Zoom taught me anyways. And now you're in Celebrate Recovery and you're working with the AA spine. It's amazing. We don't have to do it just one way and feel like we're stuck at something,
Exactly. And like I said, opening up, when we open up the show is don't give up. I've tried things, it worked for a little while, then it quit working. And then, so just don't give up, guys. And one point I really want to touch on that's an important speaking topic that I'll be speaking about when I get out there in the field here the next month or so. Our public speaking platform is up and going. Is what the real cause of addiction is. The real cause of addiction is disconnection. And they did an experiment, the rat park experiment, put rats in a cage by itself. Every single time the rat's in a cage by itself, given the choice of water or water laced with heroin or cocaine, it goes to the drug laced water every single time until it kills itself. For decades and decades, they thought there's chemical hooks in the drug to make it come back. Well, they put the rats in a park they built a huge table with all these rats. They could play with each other, have sex. They balls to play with and tunnels to scamper down. Not one of them ever drank the drug laced water compulsively, and not one of them ever overdosed.
Wow.
And an author, Johan Hari, is the one that kind of brought this to the surface. And now he has a newer book out. It's probably about 3 years old now, called Lost Connections. And I want to say I'm so proud of the fact that over the last 4.5 months, I've not been on antidepressants that I've been on for 21 years.
Wow.
They served me for a while. And I got to a point where I just was, one day I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to let this cloud follow me around. So I dove into the Celebrate Recovery program. I'm doing everything they tell me to do. I got back in the gym. I lost 28 pounds in the last 3.5 months.
Good.
By getting connected to a community at the gym, community in my recovery, community at church. And then and then I found that it's helpful for me to have people outside of recovery. At first I needed them because they're the only people that understood me. But now I find it helpful to have some golf buddies I play golf with like once a week. And it's just a whole different, dynamic.
Yeah. Well, we have to be well-rounded in everything we do. We can't just live recovery all the time, 24/7, 8 days a week. We can't just be at the gym 24/7. We had, I'm a runner. When I got into recovery, I started running. I run marathons, ultra marathons. I do, we just finished a kayak trip, a 52-mile kayak trip down the Delaware River. I like that endurance stuff but I can't live that all the time. I think it a lot, and I think my next run. I know. But it sounds like you're well-rounded. It sounds like you're not just doing the one-way thing. I got a quick question. I do want to talk to you about where you're going now and all the good stuff that you're doing. But before that, lots of trauma in your life, lots of things happen. Friend died, brother kicked in the door, brother's dead, leg amputated. I mean, that's huge trauma. Everybody has some trauma in their lives. And I believe God only gives us what we can handle. That's number one. And number two, that you have to work on the trauma and let it go and accept it, that it's part of your life, and move on. Not easy, but if you don't work on it, it's never going to go away. And the question I have for you is, did you not accept your trauma? Did you not work on your trauma? And that's why the relapses were happening?
Here's a great question, man. And I'm glad you brought that back, because I paused on that earlier. The big change happened to me when I went to a trauma-specific therapist. I didn't go to a general psychologist or psychiatrist that offers marriage and family counseling, ADHD, trauma work, PTSD. I want trauma-specific. That was a big issue for me. I had a phone consultation with her on the phone. This is a number of years back, and I told her about my car accident, everything you just described, my brother's death, my leg amputated. She goes, "You know what? Thank you for telling me those things, but I'm not really concerned about those. What I'm concerned about is what happened to you as a child." I was like, "What?
Really?
I'm paying you $400 for a 2.5-hour session, and you're asking me about my childhood? I've been to multiple treatment centers, and nobody's asked me that." She said, "What happened to you?" I said, "Nothing, man. I had a great childhood." She goes, "Sure you did. What happened?" And I said, "Man, the only thing I think of is I had some ear surgeries as a kid, but that wouldn't have been." She said, "No. You're not getting it. When you come in, we're going to start with that, because I guarantee you that's where your problem started." And that set the stage for how you reacted later on. So I was like, all right, cool. Be open-minded, right? Be willing and open-minded. So I went in. She gives me a blank piece of paper and crayon. She starts having me draw these little stick figures and scenes of my childhood. What came out of that process is I'm getting it out of my head. And I started realizing how much I lived in fear. So I had 6 ear surgeries, and I have a transplanted eardrum and 3 bones in my left ear, prosthetic bones. I had to fly out of state first for one of the surgeries. Wow. I mean, it was extremely traumatic as a child. But what came out of that is I felt broken. I felt defective. I'm not good enough. I'm unfixable. Something's wrong with me. I'm different than other people. And I think a lot of people in recovery struggling with addiction, mental health issues, feel those feelings. I'm different. I'm not right.
Yeah.
And so she helped me see that. And so I write it down on paper. 2, she puts it up on the wall. And then 3, she has me tell the story back to her. Wow. So now it's out of me. And so it's not a part of me. It's outside of me. And I'm reading it back to her. And I'm in a safe place to do that. So that was a huge turning point for me, was going back to childhood stuff. So, and it doesn't have to be major trauma. I mean, of course, there's, sexual trauma, there's physical trauma, there's psychological trauma from parents and loved ones. But there's also small traumas. Like if you had a parent that just kind of never gave you, that always said you weren't good enough, or you're not going to amount to anything. If you're somebody of color or a minority, and you grew up in a community where you're just given these signals of like, you're not one of us. You're not, you're not part of the group. These things over time, what happened, and it sets into your body. And there's a book called The Body Holds the Score. The Body Keeps the Score.
That's a great book. Yes. Yeah.
Great trauma book of our body stores this stuff. And so I had to get it out, and one of the things that I found was boxing. In the last treatment center I went to, there was a boxing bag, and I just started hitting it. I never boxed before. And I was like, whoa, this is liberating. So for the last 3 years, I've been a member at my local title boxing club. And I go in there, multiple times a week and just pound on the heavy bag. And it's been extremely therapeutic to get that stuff I've been holding in. And nowadays it's not the big past traumas. I've worked through that. God's given me ability to have resources to work through those things. Now it's the day-to-day stuff. Now it's I'm feeling it, if I'm feeling insecure today, I've relapsed, I've messed up. I don't have much time with my kids right now because of my past, because of my relapse this past October. But now I'm looking to put myself back out there, and it's nerve wracking. Am I good enough?
Yeah.
Do I, hey, I screwed up. Are people
Yeah.
going to listen to me?
Yeah.
It's like, I just give that to God and say, God, I was waiting for somebody the last number of months to tell me it's okay to get back out there, get back out on the road and share, because I do have a lot of knowledge in this stuff.
Yeah.
But I was just scared. I was in my head. And when
Yeah.
I started giving that over to God, I just have a whole lot more sense of peace and confidence. I don't have to worry about the outcome. All I need to do is the next right step. All I need to do is continue working on my presentation, get my PowerPoint together, get my website together, just do those little steps, and God's going to take care of the rest.
Yeah. Well, turn our will and our lives over to God of our understanding. That is key. The minute we turn it all over, all that stuff goes away. One thing I did notice what you were saying, and I respect you for this, because you're not claiming it. You never said my trauma. You never identified it as it being you. It's the trauma. I've heard a lot of people saying, my anxiety. You claim the anxiety, you claim the trauma, you're gonna live it. I never use anxiety, my anxiety. Oh, the anxiety is kicking up again. Everybody has anxiety. I do not claim it. I like that about what you said about the trauma. And I think that's a huge part of the healing too, is you don't claim it, you give it away, and you just kind of move past it.
Yeah, that's been a conscious decision. I do that with my prosthetic, where it's not my prosthetic leg, it's the leg. It's like, hey man, I got the leg's bothering me today. Okay, it's not my leg.
I love it. I love it. It's just amazing, the amazing work that you're doing. And listen, the relapse, hey, it happens. You didn't go to meetings or whatever, but now you found that new kind of piece of your life, and now you're moving on to bigger and better things. And I know in your bio that you sent me, you're trying to get out there and do some public speaking and podcasts and websites and all kinds of stuff. Can you tell us about where that direction's going now, because you disconnected from all the bad stuff and you're moving into the good stuff?
Yeah, and I want to go back real quick to the Johann Hari in his latest book, The Lost Connections, talks about so there's 9 scientific reasons for depression, and only 2 of them were biological. But yet we as a society have put so much on those 2 biological things: 1 in your genes, and then 2 in your brain changes. So yes, those are aspects of it, but there's only a small percentage of people with severe anxiety and depression that's the only reason. There are 7 other factors outside of that they've determined are causes of anxiety and depression. And I didn't know it, but I was applying those to my life in the last number of months. And I went back and saw his stuff last week, and I was like, oh. So one of them is disconnection from meaningful work. I didn't have meaningful work. I wasn't. So now I've got a new purpose. I allowed myself to work through the crap in my head that I'm not good enough, and I relapse, and nobody's ever listening to me. But finding meaningful work, disconnection from other people. So again, working with other people, disconnection from meaningful values, from childhood trauma, from the natural world, being in nature, being outside, breathing fresh air. That's a natural antidepressant. And he tells a story about this real quick story of they go to Cambodia in 2001 to bring antidepressants to the people of Cambodia for the first time. They get there and this doctor says, "Hey, we got the new antidepressants. We're ready to teach you about them." The guy goes, "Well, no, we already have antidepressants." "Oh, really? You do?" And he goes, "Yeah. So let me give you an example. So there's a guy in the village next to here. A number of years back, he was in the rice farms, and he got his leg blown off by a landmine. Had been there for decades upon decades from a past war. And he got his leg blown off. And so to get a prosthetic on and to walk in that mushy fields that he was working in was painful. And he was reminded of the trauma of getting his leg blown off. So he's going in every single day to this job that he can't stand. And so he was crying every day, couldn't get out of bed, crippling depression. And so they got together as a community and said, "What can we do to help this guy out?" So they bought him a cow. They said maybe he could be a dairy farmer. So now he's sitting down, he's more sedentary, he's not out in the field. Within 2 weeks, he stopped his daily crying bouts, and within 4 weeks, his depression is gone.
Oh my God!
The cow was the freaking antidepressant.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not promoting don't take medication if you need it. I used it for 21 years.
Yeah.
But I have different cows, and now I have different cows these days. I got
exactly.
The cow's the antidepressant. The natural being outside more, playing golf, and that's a natural antidepressant for me.
Absolutely.
Find those things that you don't have to rely on a doctor necessarily to prescribe you. You can prescribe to yourself and you have the power to take
Mm,
control of your depression if you
mm,
want to.
yeah,
And you can do it a little bit at a time.
yeah,
And for me, it's turning my power, my
mm,
will and power over to the care of God, as I understand them, hour by
absolutely.
hour sometimes.
Yeah.
Talking about,
Yeah. Hour by hour. You're right. And the other thing too is staying positive. Our mindset is huge, and especially in recovery. If we think bad things about ourselves, if we claim the trauma or the anxiety, we're gonna live in that world. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'll go, "Oh, I'm tired." I'm like, "What the hell am I saying? I'm tired for? I just woke up. I'm tired right now, but I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna go conquer the world." Stuff like that gets me, I know, gets me out of that bad mindset, or that mindset where I can get down a slippery slope and just fall into that depression. And exercise, like you said, I take SAMe, which is a natural antidepressant, and all kinds of different stuff, just thinking differently, hanging around with different people. Sometimes you have to cut different people out of your lives to
hey, here's another antidepressant I've been using the last number of months is cutting off people on social media that I don't need to
there
see.
you go.
People that either arouse anxiety in me or
Yep.
resentment. I
Yep.
see somebody doing. So there's a guy that's doing public speaking, doing what I'm doing, and we were part of a group a couple of years ago. Now he's still doing his public speaking in mental health, and it bothers me because I'm not doing what
Mm.
I'm not where he's at. I had to start all over.
Yeah.
So instead of actually unfollowing him, I started praying for him and saying, Lord, please continue to use him. He's doing great work.
There you go.
Please bless him. But I
Yeah.
started getting people from high school, people from college that I don't need to know what's going on in their life. I need to
No.
focus on me.
Yeah.
I don't pick up my phone and look at social media until I'm up for like a couple hours. There's
Mhm.
no need for me to go on social media and start getting these, here's what everybody else is doing that I'm
Yeah.
not doing. Here's what
Yeah.
everybody else got that I don't have.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
natural antidepressant for me was
Yeah.
unfollowing people on social media that just aren't doing it
Exactly.
for me,
Yeah.
and following new people,
Yep.
that are going to inspire and
Positive
encourage
people.
me.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I could, I would say if I've done anything to inspire, motivate, or encourage you today, go to John Clint Mabry on all social media platforms, John Clint Mabry, and I'm out there posting positive stuff,
Yeah.
and not trying to take away from anybody.
Yeah, and we'll put that on here, John, and we'll make sure that in the show notes we'll make sure that that it's all in there so everybody can get to it. You got a couple minutes left here, so you're going to go up public speaking again. You got a
Yeah, so
website, all
I'm
kinds of good
looking.
stuff.
So my target market is going to be schools, colleges, universities,
Okay.
and businesses. To be able to, so if anybody out there is part of it, is part of an HR, is an HR at a company or business, I'd love to be able to come in. Definitely reach out to me on my social media. Let me know. Just to be able to bring it's a sensitive subject. Mental health and addiction in the
Mm,
workplace is very sensitive.
mhm,
There's 1 out of 5 people in the audience is going to have depression or anxiety.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and 1 in 20 is going to have severe anxiety or depression, or they know somebody. If it's not them struggling, they know somebody, and that's taken away from their efforts in the workplace. That's taken away, the anxiety of their child or their niece or nephew who's struggling with addiction weighs on them. And so, what I'm bringing to the table is 1, my story, and then 2 practical solutions to deal with your anxiety and depression. And some of them I've shared here. Get off social media altogether if you have to.
Yeah.
Or unfollow people that aren't doing it for you anymore.
Yeah. I do a thing called screenless Sundays. I don't get on my phone. I don't watch TV. I don't get on a computer. So it's very, very hard. The first Sunday, I think I lasted till about 8:30 in the morning.
Hey,
Now
it's better than the day before.
it was. So now I'm up to, I've been doing this for a while. Now I'm up to like 2:00, 3:00. My first go-to screen would be the TV. So but listen, the more you can disconnect, like you just said, the better off we are, and staying positive. And that's what it sounds like is different in your world now, is that you're staying positive and you're doing different things, and that mindset is different. And that's wonderful. That is so good, John.
And I was able to get to that point from all the therapies I've done in the past, and then also just one day just going, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yep.
I'm not going to allow myself to be depressed anymore.
Yep.
And I had the spiritual connection, the spiritual backing to be able to get that started. It didn't
Yep.
happen overnight where all of a sudden it's just like, I'm going to get off my antidepressants. See ya. It was like,
Yep.
you know what? I'm going to work to get off these as quickly and safely as possible.
Yep.
And every day I wake up and I'm doing the same things that are working for me. So
Amen.
it's when I stop. It's when I stop doing the stuff that are working. That's when I go backwards.
That's
so
it.
I'm
That's
grateful
it.
to be here
Yeah.
today. And this is you're helping me out. So thanks so much.
Well, John, thank you so much for being on the podcast. John Mabry. John, give us the website again.
Yeah, so my website's not up yet. So,
That's okay.
But for me on social media, John John Clint Clint Mabry Mabry, John Clint Mabry, and love to hear from you.
Yeah, look for him on social media. And if there's any, and also guys, help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. You can get a hold of me and I'll make sure that you guys get a hold of John. John, thank you so much. Amazing story. I had no idea the twists and turns in it. I always say when on our speaker meetings or somebody's sharing, like, I cannot believe that was that person. I know who these people are, and I know you're in recovery now, but I can't believe that, we had those lives, we did have those lives, but it doesn't define who we are today. It doesn't make us who we are today. And just get those thoughts out of your head. Be the good person that you are, go search for your higher power, do what you have to do to get out of this crazy whirlwind of addiction and just live a good life, just like John is. And just like most of our people are. And I live a good life too, because of all that, John, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to stay in touch with you. You're my kind of guy as far as the positivity goes, and maybe we can work on something together, but you'll be hearing from me more. Jersey Ed here, guys. Friends in Recovery podcast. Stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.